yield, or
I'll accept the yield. Thank you, Madam
Thank you,
President.
and to be followed by Senator Wong. Thank you.
So this is something I've been working on for almost 8 years. And this has nothing to do with removing any type of water charges that provide fire safety protection. This comes about because of a bill that I received almost 7 years ago for $600,000 called a water protection fee. And it pertained to all it was 4 lines. It said fire hydrants, linear feet, and gave no details or anything on what it was. So I started to investigate. And I soon found, I actually learned quite a bit through this process, but what I found is that the town of Vernon, where I was actually looking this up, was getting charged for fire hydrants that no longer existed, been gone since the 1960s. We were getting charged for water lines on private property that should have been paid for by the private property owner. We were getting charged for water lines that cut through the town and they never stopped in the town. There were no hydrants within the town, and we're getting charged for that. I don't understand how that provides fire safety for our town. I also found that we were being charged for water lines that were 4 inches and 3 inches in diameter, which cannot be hooked up to a fire truck because they would be sucked dry. And because of this, I continued the investigation. And at the same time, our fire department came along and started hooking up to these fire hydrants, and they weren't working. We have active fires going. They would hook up to a fire hydrant, open it up, and it would break. And part of this is the fee that we're paying for these, and they're supposed to be tested, taken care of, and essentially every fire hydrant in town was rusted, did not have the snow flags. So I needed those cleaned up because I'm paying the fee, they should have been taken care of. And then, like I said, the fire department was this was the problem. The fire department would come in, they would hook up to these fire hydrants, the fires are going and the hydrant is broken. They then have to disconnect, find a good fire hydrant, hook up, and then they can fight the fire. Every minute counts. The last one was just about 2 years ago now, and it was a fire going, we hooked up, and had 0 water pressure to one of our fire trucks. And in that fire, a fireman got burned. And the main cause, in my opinion, was the fact we couldn't get enough water on this fire. Public safety, I still believe, is a politician's #1 job. So let's go back to what this bill does. If there's a street that does not have a fire hydrant on it and has water lines, there's 2 things that can happen. #1, we shouldn't be charged for it because it's not fire protection. #2, if they want us to pay the fire protection fee, put a fire hydrant on it. I'm willing to pay for any water main and any fire hydrant that provides fire protection. And to give an idea, we were being charged probably 100 years for a fire hydrant from the 1800s. And when we went over to that fire hydrant to look at it, it actually fell over. So there's no way that fire hydrant was tested all those years that we were paying that bill. Since the 1960s, there was a fire hydrant in one of our parks we were being charged from. It was removed in the 1960s. So this is a huge problem. It may not be everywhere. So all of us are getting messages from all over the state saying, if you do this, it's going to be the end of the world for the water companies. And that's not true. Again, when you look at the big cities, there's not many streets in the big cities that don't have a fire hydrant. They're not going to be affected by this. There's no reduction in their fees. There's no reduction in anything. But when you look at some of the rural towns, you're going to say, well, you know what, there's no fire hydrant on this water main. But if there's no fire hydrant, how do you use it to fight fires? That's what this bill does. If I can't fight a fire with it, then I shouldn't have to pay a fire protection fee. The argument originally was that it's a whole system. It's not just that water line. And I can't buy that. I just can't. Because if I can't hook a fire hose or fire truck up to it, it's not fighting a fire. So the other part was getting permission from administration and the fire marshal. Administration pays the bill. The fire marshal does the public safety. Those water lines that cut through my town and don't go to any homes, any businesses, and do not have a fire hydrant hooked up to it, the easy solution for the water company would be to throw a fire hydrant on that one line. I'd have to pay all the linear feet, and I'm sure that fire hydrant's going to go next to another fire hydrant. Several times in my community, I saw 2 fire hydrants sitting right next to each other, connected to the exact same fire line. Useless, but I'm paying for both of them. So that's the basis of this legislation. It is a minimal effect on the water company, but it's nothing they can't solve. They can put the fire hydrants in on any street that doesn't have it. It increases the fire protection for the citizens, and it also increases public safety. That is, hopefully I answered the extent of this bill. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Champagne.